Alright, so it's time for lighting training video part 6. In this video we'll get into the controls devices and how we get those onto plan. It's very similar concept on how we add lights, but instead of being hosted to the ceiling, most of these are going to be hosted to a wall. It's a little bit different in concept, but once you get a hold of whether you host a fixture to a ceiling or if you host it to the wall, it's the same thing all the way through for most of the families in Revit. So once again, you will want to double check your work set every single time you're working in a different view. For lighting plot, you make sure you have the lighting work set on, and then we'll begin adding lighting controls devices. So once again, we're going to go to our Systems tab, and over on the right hand side under Electrical, we'll see that there is a column for devices. There's a little drop down, and if you drop it down, you'll see that there's a little switch. I have a hotkey called LS for light switches here, and it's very much like a light fixture. You simply select it, and you will begin to have an ability to place devices on plan. These devices are primarily face-based, so you'll notice that right away up at the top tab that you'll see a place on vertical face has been defaulted to. This is different from the work plane that we placed our lights on earlier. The main difference being that we are going to place these onto a wall. In other words, it's going to be hosted to the face of the wall. Another thing that you might notice is that it's not letting me place the device yet if I'm hovering out in a empty space of floor plan. In order to place these devices, you need to actually, go towards the wall until it selects on the wall, and then once it's on that wall, you can click and drop it. And this is very important in the sense that it needs a host to associate with. But once it has that host associated, you can finally drop it there, and then we can start editing its properties on the left-hand side. Once again, Revit's a 3D software, so it's very important that when you're modeling that you keep this in mind and you place, items at the correct elevation. This is something that will carry through for, your receptacles, your data receptacles. Everything in Revit can be placed in its correct physical location, which is very important. So once again, once we have a device placed on plan, we can use the TG tag command, or if you wanted to, you can go up into this annotate and tag by category. It's, like I said, a hotkey is very useful in the sense that you'll be tagging a lot of different items. When you tag a switch, you'll end up tagging it by its type, which is always good. You can also add in your electrical abbreviation, the switch flag, and then you can make a separate tag for that. In this case, I'll use A as my tag, and then you just tag again, drop it down to the abbreviation style, and from there, you've set up your switch. Once you set up your switch too, you can change it to a dimmer switch by simply selecting it and hitting the type drop down. There's a variety of different switches just defaulted in our template, from a dimmer switch to a occupancy wall mounted switch, a bunch of different styles of controls, but once again they all lie in the different types. If there's one thing to pay attention to here, and it's the fact that occupancy sensors are in this as well, and these sensors are usually wall mounted, and so if you switch it to that type, you'll no longer be able to see it on the wall, which could cause some headaches in the future. Let's say you did need to switch it to that type for any reason, and you didn't just want to place a new device and delete the old one out. You could switch the type, and then with it still selected, you could pick a new host. And at this point, you could place it on the work plane, which is super easy and effective. And, once again, it defaults to the ceiling level, but you could place it on the ceiling grid if you so wanted to. That's pretty much it for controls devices. We also use these zone tags over here, which you can see is a hexagon. And what I typically like to do is, if I have a large enough area, I use some detail lines to draw a border so that I can indicate all the fixtures that I want the properties that the hex tags will associate with them. I'm about 5 minutes in, so I'm gonna push on any extra topics to a later video. Thank you.